Welcome to our hangout talking about muscle cars. We're looking at the near future. What's to come from the 2015 Mustang? We've heard it will gain some weight. How much power will the new Challenger Hellcat make? And how does all of this stuff fit into, the wider world of cars? Gas mileage, horsepower wars, the near future with self-driving cars. Does any of this about muscle cars even make sense anymore? So, kicking things off with the 2015 Mustang, I'll just throw this up to the group. Whoever's got something to say, jump in. It looks like it could gain anywhere from 50 to 300 pounds, right? That's like having a baby in a car seat or potentially one very large passenger riding along with you. Compared to the current Mustang, which is not exactly known as a lightweight vehicle. This isn't what people expected, especially with Ford doing things really high-tech in the weight savings department in some of its other cars. Mm-hmm. Like, just this week, they released the new Fusion concept that weighs as much as a Fiesta, right? A full-size four-door car.
And don't you think that was well-timed? Because all these other numbers started to float out, and you always have to have a counter story to the story that's out there, right?
Well, was it well-timed, or was it setting themselves up for failure, right?
Well, remember, 2 years ago when we started to read a bunch of stories about how the ATS was going to come in overweight, and in fact it ended up being 200 pounds lighter. I personally think the Mustang isn't going to lose a lot of weight because it's growing and it's wider and it's a little bit longer. Eventually for somebody they want to package in a real rear seat. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it stay about the same. But God, how much is a Corvette? 3,800 pounds?
No. It's like 3,250, 3,350, I think, in its various guises.
Current Mustang is what, 35, 36, and a Camaro is 38, almost 4,000 in convertible form?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I assumed it was going to gain weight because how are you going to, the current rear suspension is pretty simplistic, right? And how are you going to add the multi-link aluminum, even if it's aluminum, rear suspension independent with all the moving parts and everything without gaining any weight? It's just...
Well, but see, that's the thing. I think that's been bandied about a lot in the rumors regarding the Mustang's weight gain. But I don't think independent rear suspension should weigh more. If you look at the lightest sports cars on the planet, they are independent rear suspension cars, right? You have short links, short axles, the same essential differential and carrier, right? But you don't have a large steel tube. You don't have all of the bits that go with that.
Sure.
Right. So overall weight should at least be similar, if not lighter, in an independent setup, and you're lowering unsprung weight, which is going to improve handling. So
and this is probably the first time in 15 years that they've taken a clean look at the entire floor pan and underbody and all those stampings. So optimizing it for, you could do a lot more on computer now than you could the last time it got a full floor pan redo. So the mounting points, the whole lateral stiffness, the bending stiffness is going to be a lot better than in the last two generations. So that's why I think it's not going to put on a lot of weight. But then you add in some kind of standard infotainment, screen, airbags, or more airbags, more options, more of everything. That's where you start to pick up the weight. It's not the structure that so much concerns. It's everything that they're going to want to pile onto it.
Have they talked about the materials yet? Because I don't think there's much aluminum in the current one, if any. But the new one, is even the hood or fenders aluminum? Have they talked about that yet?
They haven't, to my knowledge, gone in depth, and I think that's because it touches on the weight topic. So
that could lead to these rumors could be unsubstantiated. And if you get the hood and fenders aluminum.
Well, yeah, they're totally unsubstantiated until Ford says something officially. So
exactly. And as much as the web has made business about it being a good thing to throw these rumors around as if they were fact, that's why Motor Authority has not reported on it. It is, at this point, guessing, right? They're shooting in the dark as to how much the Mustang's going to weigh. But just the idea that it could, though, is really troubling to a lot of Mustang fans because that's not what they expected of this with Ford's recent history.
But they probably don't expect a car that's going to get closer to a Challenger in size either, and that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call it Challenger big, but it is a large car in person.
Yeah, wider. Much wider, so you're really going to sense it, especially in the back seats. I think, especially in convertible versions, you're really going to be able to put an adult back there where you couldn't before. So there's probably a lot of mass that comes with that. But at the same time, if you have a composite deck lid or aluminum trunk lid or something, some minimal weight savings there, I think it's going to net out about the same. a ZL1 convertible is on the high end of the range. Probably the base 6-cylinder Mustang coupe is going to be at the low end of that range for all those muscle cars.
Right. Well, at any rate, as we've noted, it's unsubstantiated and guessing, as much as it's got everybody riled up. So.
And I'm sure we're going to find out more about that between now and end of summer, early fall when we get into one. So.
Right. That will be the real test, right? Even if
so
it does.
I'm curious because I'm pinch hitting for you, Nelson, and driving the Z28 this coming week. How sensible that car is off the track. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to be a blast to drive on the track. You know, even if it's Gingerman Raceway, it's a kind of a small track with a few turns and a short straightaway, and that's about it. But I got to drive it 2 years ago, the 1LE version there, and a little bit with the ZL1 there. So I'm curious to see how that stacks up. If it's actually setting a really high bar for even the V8 Mustangs to hit.
Oh, well, I expect it to be awesome on track, and I'm actually really jealous that I can't make that event. But I also expect it to be borderline intolerable on the street, having built my own car into something that's like a very small version of that Z28.
Wait, your Miata?
Yeah, it's going to be unpleasant.
Hey.
Yeah, somebody's going to think about that when you're saying Miata is almost the Z28, and that's going to be 500 other comments below.
Was it Nelson?
It's just a stripped down track focused version is all I'm saying, right?
So it's the same theory as the Z28.
Right. It's the same exact theory applied to a different car, and it's great on track and fairly unpleasant on the street. It's a compromise I'm totally comfortable with, and I think Z28 buyers will be too. They know what they're getting into.
Yeah.
When was the last time a $70,000 car had the option of no air conditioning?
See, but I think that's perfect. I think that's exactly the point of Z28.
Exactly. But anyways, we veered a bit here. Let's steer it back towards the Hellcat now, because new supercharged Hemi, the first supercharged Hemi ever from the brand, that holds a lot of potential. And just like Chevy with the Z06, they're saying more than 600 horsepower, but they're not saying how much yet.
So I'm the first. There's only a few.
You're the only one to see it. You take it over.
Yeah. So there's only a few people who've seen it. They rolled it out to us at the Midwest Automotive Media Association breakfast 2 weeks ago. And if you've already seen our YouTube channel, you'll see that we have the exhaust starting the revving. It sounds really good. A couple people have said that it sounds a little like aftermarket exhaust. It's really loud. Really loud. And on the street, I'm not sure if that's going to get annoying. I think the demo is going to be good for that, but it's really loud. It is a little understated, but it's purpose-built. I really love the ram air intake in the headlight. That's purpose-built. BMW used to do that. That is what you do when you build a car like that.
Yeah, since when do people not want a Challenger to sound like vaguely aftermarket in the first place? I thought the whole point of that car was breaking any decibel limits you might encounter along the way.
This will hit that target. It was, and it wasn't even warmed up. I mean, they started it right off cold, and they just literally just put it all the way down to the floor, and it was really loud.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's what you want from a big, potent V8, right? Especially.
I'm not saying that in a bad way. To be clear, before the comments start destroying me, not saying that in a bad way at all. To be clear, it was very good sounding, in my opinion.
I mean, beyond that, the only thing that everybody wants that I would want, that I would actually buy, heartbeat sight unseen, is a convertible version of that car, like a ZL1,
I don't think that's
Challenger, SRT, Hellcat. When are they going to do that? Don't worry about adding any more weight to the car. You've already got the heaviest one. Don't worry about adding any feeling of this car is too big to do some things, because hey, news, it is. But it's in its way, it's the most awesome of the three. I've never been a big Chrysler or Dodge muscle car fan from the 70s and even 60s, but this one really does it for me.
Oh yeah, well, it's the most muscle car in the sense of the big muscle car era, right? Like the Mach 1s and the original Challenger. The after the pony cars, before everything got smogged out, sort of the glory days of muscle cars. That's the Challenger. and the Hellcat is the most of that. So yeah, at least 1 decibel for every 5 horsepower. That seems roughly appropriate.
Well, it's also the most muscle car in the recipe too. I mean, the Mustang is built to be a Mustang. You know, the Challenger starts out as a Charger, as a sedan, really. You know, it's a 2-door body on it. It's more like Tempest getting stuffed with huge engines. It's more like, you know, off the rack car that we had sold before getting thoroughly reworked. I mean, that to me is the muscle car recipe. Kind of off the shelf performance, all powertrain, not necessarily its own body style.
Well, so the 2 comments, one with the, and I could be wrong, but on the Challenger convertible comment, I'm pretty sure that not much in the structure has changed since the 2000, when it was really introduced in, 2007, 2005, something like that. And if I remember correctly, it was an old modified like 99 E-Class platform from Mercedes era, and
they make convertibles off of that.
But I think that Chrysler said the structure was never designed from the get-go for a convertible, which was a mistake on their part, and they admitted it, but that it was going to be too much money to rework it. I could be wrong on that, but I think that was their theory.
No, I think that's probably right. I mean, there's not enough interest there to turn it. I mean, you could always cut the top off of it. You could always add another 300 pounds of body structure. It's time, money. Is it going to pay off in the few more years that we have with the current Challenger?
Right.
Well, and there's always Newport convertibles, right?
I was just going to say, you can get one.
I got a Sawzall downstairs, you know, if you guys got some time, because from there I'm not exactly sure where to go.
So and the other interesting thing about this is we were just talking about how this is the most muscle car of the 3, which I agree. The other 2 are starting to straddle sports car, you know, with what they're doing. But the Hellcat is the first of the Challengers to take, and they're now doing adjustable suspension, and they've got like legitimate brakes. Like they're really trying. They got to rein in that power, and they really want it to be legitimately not scary. And I think to do that, they're making a lot of modern concessions that the Challenger to date, I mean, it's the only one of the 3 that hasn't had active suspension with you know, tuning to it. It hasn't had insane brakes. It hasn't, I mean, these are things that the Camaro Mustang had for years now.
Well, the Mustangs had adjustable suspension, but not active damping.
Right.
Okay, correction. I'm not sure if the Challenger Hellcat has adjustable. I don't want to get flamed for saying it does. I know it has adjustable. I'm not sure if it has active. I think it's the. I think it's
just the 2-mode shocks.
Right.
Yeah. But hey, if you look at that, that's kind of following a trend in the muscle car world, right? People building up 70s muscle cars into pro mod or whatever you want to call them, you know, pro touring style cars, where they're modernized with bigger wheels, bigger brakes, you know, upgraded suspension systems.
They actually drive.
It brings that flavor and feel into the modern era where you can actually drive it on the street and not worry, oh no, am I going to stop in time when that guy in front of me makes a panic brake?
Not a big fan of drums, huh?
Right.
Yeah. It's happening in the production side too, because shocks have become cheaper and they respond a lot more quickly, and that's why, you know, Corvettes have them, Camaros have them now, ATS has them. You know, small sports cars, sports sedans, and muscle cars, it widens the envelope of what you can do in it and makes it tolerable on a regular street. So they become better all-around vehicles. So they don't get pushed off a shopping list because, you know, not everybody's like you and has an F-250 to haul their stuff around. You can actually use it to go to Publix and then take it off and have some fun with it on the weekend.
I won't even say that I figured out a unicorn vehicle that does all those things. I'll just keep my shit.
Well, I didn't even get that.
Share with the group, Joe. Share with the group.
Well, I mean, it's kind of why I bought an M5. It has 4 doors, haul a kid, I can go grocery shopping, it can handle on the track, I can go on the back roads and go right behind Lamborghinis. I'm just saying, like...
And you don't have air conditioning either.
No, I got that fixed.
Well, now you have air conditioning.
I have air conditioning. I had a kid. I had to make sure I had air conditioning.
Okay. All right. Well, see, that's why I think the Mustang is going to grow a little bit. You know, weight issue regardless. It's got to be a little bit bigger on the inside because one of the biggest complaints is, well, this is the one that's closest to doing everything I need, but I still can't fit anybody in the back seat.
Absolutely. And it's not at the place where it would be somebody's third car all that often.
No.
You know, a lot of people still buy these as their main car or maybe their second car.
This is not a Bentley Continental GTC.
Right. But, you know, Joel just solved all of the muscle car problems in the world by lowering the rules.
Just turn it into an M5. That makes everything perfect. You knew you were going to take some guff for that, Joel.
I said I wasn't going to say a thing. It's not my fault you couldn't understand where that was going.
Well, remember, there is no teasing in a Google Hangout. Either you're going to say it or you're not going to say it.
That's right.
All right, so just to wrap things up here, I wanted to remind people that Mustang comes later in the year for us, and Hellcat does too, but we're driving the Z28 after a first rain out next. We're going to be driving it next week, and we'll have some driving impressions for you on Motor Authority. Hopefully some video too if the weather cooperates this time. Looks like it probably will. And what else do we have, Joel? We've got some other videos coming up.
Definitely check out, we have a Dodge Challenger Hellcat overview now up on Motor Authority that goes through in detail everything that we just talked about even further. We've also got video, like I mentioned, of the exhaust revving. And obviously we have full preview. We are one of a few outlets that have a live photo gallery on our site. And, I mean, everything you can want on the Hellcat we have on Motor Authority up live right now, except for First Drive, which will be coming later this year, like Mark said.
And all kinds of coverage about the Z28 and the Mustang, too, also on Motor Authority.
And you mentioned Corvette. We'll be driving the Z06 later, or not later this year, early next year? Sooner than later?
It's going to be sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll be driving that, too. And we'll bring you, obviously, video of that if we can as well.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Next time.
Thanks.